Simply mimicking a movement pattern and trying to make it look correct can still lead to compensations. And when we compensate, we're creating that overload, which can lead to lower back, hip, and even knee pain. Hey guys, it's Corey from Redefining Strength, and today I want to talk about that basic bodyweight glute bridge. This is a must-do fundamental movement. It's also a movement that too often we just go through the motions with, and we don't actually focus on what we feel working. It's why we can end up feeling our hamstrings compensating or our lower back taking over when our glutes should be the prime mover. So today I really want to take a look at this basic bodyweight movement and help you master the exercise and get those proper recruitment patterns to really activate your glutes and prevent your lower back and hamstrings from compensating. It's key that we really dial in our glute bridge form because we want to make sure that we're actually activating our glutes. Doing this exercise is a great way to improve your hip extension and get those glutes firing to prevent lower back, hip, and even knee pain. So if you struggle with aches and pains in your lower body, you want to master the basic glute bridge. But it's not just about doing the right exercises or the right moves if you want to prevent aches and pains. It's also about feeling the correct muscles working. That's why I want to share 4 amazing coaching cues to help you dial in your glute bridge form and get those glutes firing efficiently and effectively. Cue number 1 is drive your knees toward your toes. It sounds really weird because you want to be driving through your heels to bridge up. But if you actually think about driving your knees towards your toes as you lift up, you'll better engage your glutes. When we don't think about driving our knees towards our toes, we can end up pushing ourselves backwards. That's when we start to engage our hamstrings and our lower back. So as you bridge up, think about actually driving your knees towards your toes while you keep your foot flat on the ground. This is a great way to make sure that you're driving hip extension using only your glutes. Tip number 2 is to think about engaging your upper back. When you're doing the glute bridge, yes, it's a glute exercise and a lower body movement and even core movement, but you're also engaging your upper body to prevent yourself from driving yourself backwards. Especially if you've ever done bridging and you feel your neck or traps taking over, you want to think about engaging your upper back to really stabilize so you can focus on that hip extension being driven by your glutes. So when you're setting up for the glute bridge, think about driving your upper arms or your elbows actually back down into the ground as you unshrug your shoulders. This is really helpful, especially if you're also focused on driving your knees towards your toes. This will make sure that you're only driving the hip extension using your glutes and not arching your lower back just to bridge up higher. Tip number 3 is to use the posterior pelvic tilt. So the posterior pelvic tilt is where you actually tuck your hips towards your rib cage. This not only engages your abs, but will help you prevent yourself from hyperextending your lower back at the top of the movement. So you won't arch your lower back just to get up higher. The posterior pelvic tilt is also a movement that is driven by the glute max. So by using this posterior pelvic tilt, not only will you engage your abs, but you'll actually activate your glutes before you even lift up off the ground. Before you lift, think about pressing that lower back into the ground as you tuck your hip bones towards your rib cage. Then bridge up only as high as you can while maintaining that posterior pelvic tilt. This will prevent you from arching your lower back at the top just to get up higher. It will make sure that you're actually using your glutes to drive the hip extension that you can control instead of arching just to make the movement bigger. Using the posterior pelvic tilt is a great way to really strengthen your core and make sure that you're establishing that mind-body connection with your glutes while opening up your hips. Tip number 4 is to not get too focused on bridging up higher. When we're trying to just mimic a movement pattern and bridge up as high as possible, that's where we start to compensate and use other muscles to try and get a bigger movement. But you don't want to just arch your lower back to get up higher. That only perpetuates improper recruitment patterns and might cause lower back overload, which might be what's leading to your lower back aches and pains in the first place. So when you're focused on doing the glute bridge, think about only extending your hips and lifting up as high as you can based on how much you can contract your glutes. So if you're finding that you're starting to want to arch just to bridge up higher, stop. Focus on that glute contraction and just pause where you've gotten that full hip extension based on engaging your glutes. Using the other cues, you can make sure that you're not arching your lower back or using your hamstrings just to lift up higher. It's really key we focus on what we actually feel working if we want to get the full benefit of a movement. Using these 4 tips, you can dial in your glute bridge form to get more out of this basic movement. It's really key we have proper recruitment patterns or engage the correct muscles if we want to get the full benefit of the exercises we're including in our workout routine. Simply mimicking a movement pattern and trying to make it look correct can still lead to compensations. And when we compensate, we're creating that overload, which can lead to lower back, hip, and even knee pain. So when you're doing the glute bridge, be very conscious of what you feel working. The more advanced you are, the more you'll feel those glutes really firing from that first rep. Focus on really feeling your glutes contract as you bridge up. You can even touch your glutes if you're struggling with that mind-body connection. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it, comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe. We're posting new videos each week. you.